Electricast.
This episode is brought to you by Global X. Since 2008, Global X ETFs has been committed to empowering investors with unexplored, intelligent solutions. Global X specializes in exchange-traded funds that offer exposure to the artificial intelligence ecosystem, including themes like data centers, robotics, semiconductors, and cloud computing. To learn more about Global X's entire suite of ETFs, from covered calls, fixed income, emerging markets, and more, visit globalxetfs.com.
This episode is brought to you by Merrill. Join one of the most iconic names in wealth management, Merrill. You'll be part of a dynamic team of advisors and specialists working hard every day to grow their clients' wealth. And with the support of best-in-class research, advanced digital tools, and the resources of a global institution, it's truly an opportunity you can be bullish about. Learn more at careers.bankofamerica.com. Copyright 2024, Bank of America Corporation.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today I'm talking with Cindy Witteman, a powerhouse based in San Antonio, Texas. As a thriving business owner, three-time international best-selling author, and recipient of the 2023 Trailblazer Award, Cindy is a force to be reckoned with. She wears many hats, serving as the host of the Little Give TV show and the Is Manifesting Bullshit podcast. An entrepreneur, life and confidence coach, and speaker, Cindy's multifaceted expertise also extends to beekeeping. As a former single parent and proud stepmom to a blended family of 6 kids, 1 grandson, and 2 granddaughters, Cindy intimately understands the challenges of parenting. Her passion for positive change led her to establish Driving Single Parents Incorporated in 2017, a 501c3 nonprofit that recently marked its 6th anniversary. Through this organization, Cindy and her dedicated team provide life-changing support to single-parent families, offering reliable vehicles at no cost. The impact goes beyond transportation. These vehicles become tools for transformation, empowering parents to overcome obstacles and rewrite their success stories. Away from her professional endeavors, Cindy finds joy in travel, family time, and the gratification of helping others find positivity in life. With a heart dedicated to giving back, she continues to make a meaningful impact, embodying resilience and inspiring others to navigate life's challenges with strength and optimism. I'm excited to have Cindy on the show today and equally excited that we will get to dive into more about what she does. So let's get started. Welcome, Cindy. I am excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. And man, that was quite a lot. That intro just kind of still to this day kind of gets me like, wait, who's she talking about? Because I kind of want to meet that person. I don't sometimes even see that that's me, but thank you for that beautiful intro.
Oh, you are welcome. And it's amazing what you've done with your life. And we're going to talk about that. I think it's just incredible. But first, tell us a little bit about Cindy, the woman, like the personal side of your story. Like, who are you? And then we can talk about what you're currently doing.
Absolutely. So my story started in generational poverty. When I grew up, I had sometimes no running water. We didn't have electricity a lot of times. I ate a lot of raw potatoes in the dark. And I really just always would sit back and try to envision a better life for myself. I remember looking at people who had nice cars and they had a house that wasn't a broken down trailer home. And I would go and ask them. I don't know what it was in me that made me go and ask, like, hey, how'd you get that car? How'd you get that house? How do you have nice shoes? How do you have running water? And something was sparked in me and people would tell me the same thing, like, oh, I have a really good job. And I would say, well, how'd you get that good job? Well, I went to college or whatever their answer was. And I thought to myself, like, maybe I'm just an 8 or 10-year-old little girl here, but I got to get me one of those jobs right away. So that's kind of where I started from very humble beginnings.
I love that. It's so funny as children. And I mean, for me, is just remembering when I was younger, I remember being asked what I wanted to do with my life. And there was no limit. Like, I never thought, oh, I'd like to be that, but there's no possible way for that to happen for me. There was never any limit. I was never told that I couldn't have that or be that. And I think it's when I got older, that's when I started, I think, maybe limiting myself to what I could go after. I've since changed some of that perspective. But as we go through life and we experience life, things like that happen. It comes into a mindset like, oh, as a child, that was one thing we're dreaming. But as an adult, we have to face reality. And I think that's kind of where that shifting of that mindset really helped me to really start looking at what I was doing with my life. So I really love what you shared about yourself being a young girl and realizing, oh, you get to have this because you're doing this. So how can I start doing that for myself? And I love that, having already that entrepreneurial mindset at 8 years old. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, I actually my mom would make plastic canvas butterflies and different things, and I would take them to school and actually sell them so we could have money for the raw potatoes. So
Wow.
I said from a very young age, I've always been like that. And I think that, but just there's something in each and every one of us that gets dimmed. Our light, it's almost like you have a light bulb and then you put a lampshade over the top of it. The light bulb never changed, but the difference of the light that reflects in the room did. And I know that when I was growing up, one of the things that I'd always be told was, you talk too much, you ask too many questions, be quiet. I even got a shirt one time that said, somebody gave me a shirt that says, help, I'm talking and I can't shut up. And so things like that, where a person who is already in generational poverty, who's already being bullied for not being well spoken or beautifully dressed or the perfect kept hair, a person like that could really take that internally and continue that generational
Mhm.
poverty and continue, because that's how we're conditioned. And so I think that's so important for each of us to understand that we can make a choice and we can do something different if we want to.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And I think, yeah, that whole other people, we look at them, especially if you grew up in poverty and you think, oh, that type of lifestyle is only made for those types of people. And I don't fit into that box. But I'm glad that you were able to see past that and think, no, I want what that looks like. That looks appealing to me. So what can I do that can actually get me one step closer? So I love that. I want to talk about your nonprofit because I think that's incredible. It's the Driving Single Parents, and you're making an impact by providing free vehicles to single parents. And you've been doing this for the past 6 years. So, what inspired you to start this organization?
Oh my goodness, you're going to get me so excited right now. I hope I don't start talking too fast for this podcast. I call it heart work. That's what it is to me. So, trailing back again, we talked about my generational poverty growing up, and that I escaped that generational poverty and then ended up in a domestic violence relationship. And unfortunately, through that, I ended up one day, we had been together for almost 10 years. I had several daughters, and I wanted that white picket fence. And that white picket fence was so important to me, to have the two-parent home that I didn't get to have, and the security financially and all these things that were rooted from my childhood trauma. And so I was staying in that relationship because I thought, well, the abuse is only happening to me, so it's fine. Like, maybe the girls are seeing it, but it's fine. Well, one day I was watching Dr. Phil, as any housewife would do back then, folding laundry, watching Dr. Phil. And Dr. Phil said, it's better to come from a broken home than it is to grow up in one. And literally, the minute I heard that, I grabbed my daughters, a basket of clothes, a bag of diapers, and we headed out. And I built a new life for us. So my youngest daughter was 5 months old at the time. It was quite the struggle. I worked 2 jobs. I put myself through college. I was just really just going, burning candles at both ends and really working hard to get us to a better place. Well, I always knew that once I got us on the other side of success, I was going to help other single parents somehow, some way. So the idea for Driving Single Parents actually came at dinner one night. It was literally at dinner at a really nice restaurant, and it hit me. And I literally stood up at the table and I said, that's it. I'm going to give away cars to single parents. And immediately was told, like, sit down. That's a terrible idea. There's so many liability issues. Like, that's not a good idea. You should really think about something else. So I called over the server and I said, hey, and it was a female server. And I said, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? And she said, oh my goodness, I came from a single parent home. And I remember riding the bus and standing in the rain and not being able to get to doctor's appointments and not being able to see family, not being able to get groceries because we didn't have transportation. So it's a great idea. But maybe you should dim it down a bit. Like maybe you should just do like Uber or Lyft gift cards. Like maybe you're thinking too big. Why don't you just do smaller? And I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe I should. So I went home that night and I built the website and I built a business plan and we gave away a car less than a month later.
I love that. And it's unfortunate, but again, as I was alluding to in the beginning when we first started talking, is that it's unfortunate as a child, we can dream big. There's nothing that's out of reach for us. But as we get older, it's almost like and you were saying it too, is that somehow our light gets dimmed a little. And maybe we start feeling like, oh, well, I have dreams, but maybe that's just too far out of reach for someone like me. And I love the fact that you stuck to your guns, that this was your idea, that you realized could be really helpful. Again, having a car really makes a difference, especially if you are a single parent and you have children, putting them on a bus with you to go and get groceries, or even to have to try to find childcare so that you can go and get groceries or whatever it is that you need to do. That's a lot. I grew up in a single parent home too, and my mom always had a vehicle, but still, for us, we grew up in social housing. So I always felt like less than all of my friends who grew up in single family homes, both parents, they had money, but I was just always outgoing and friendly. And I had a lot of friends, but I always still felt like I was the outsider to that group, that I didn't really truly belong. And I think that's what happens. Again, you said your idea and someone thought it was a great idea, but maybe in her pursuit of something, she may have been told, that's a little too far out of reach, don't you think? And has dimmed her light a little bit. But I love that it didn't dim yours, because you've had, I feel, since you were 8 years old, as you talked about, you've always had this driving force, no matter what your circumstances, and you made it come true. So I really, really appreciate that. And I respect that, what you've done, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, it's incredible to think that since that's happened, we've blessed multiple single parent families. We're going to hit 7-year mark of giving away cars in March. Right now,
Oh,
we're
wow.
working really hard to find a perfect fit for a new family to get a new car. Or we don't always give away new cars, but to bless them with a vehicle, the gift of transportation here coming up. So we're really working hard on that. And we've gotten a proclamation. We've had National Single Parents Day, a proclamation for that for March 22nd. And so we've done so many things. And I look back on that little girl who was 8 years old trying to figure out, hold on a second, how do you have running water, to the woman I am today who has now really changed so many lives. If you wouldn't mind, I would love to share a success story that we've had with driving single parents.
Yeah, absolutely. That was actually going to be my next question, was to actually ask you how receiving a vehicle has helped change the trajectory of some of the people that you've actually been able to bless.
Yeah. So first things first is whenever I was trying to figure out what nonprofit I was going to start, I knew I was going to start one. I had no idea how hard it was going to be because it's not that easy. But when I was thinking through what to do, I was really focused on, okay, I don't want to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And there's so many beautiful nonprofits out there that do amazing things. Like they provide food, they provide diapers, they provide wipes, they provide maybe sometimes formula, things like that. That's amazing. But those are all things we're going to need again tomorrow, the next day, or the next week. And so when I was thinking through the nonprofit I wanted to start one that was actually going to be a solution to many problems and not a simple solution to one day of a problem. So that's how, of course, thinking through, I came up with the idea of driving single parents. So I want to share two stories. Number one is the first car we gave away was actually on April Fool's Day, which is kind of hilarious. And so the idea for driving single parents started, and I got it all registered on March 23rd. We gave away the car on April 1st. So that's how fast the universe moved for me. and for the families that I've helped. So the first car actually went to a gentleman by the name of John Cano, who is amazing. Unfortunately, he was hit by a drunk driver. And in that accident, he lost his wife, his car, and his leg. And so he became a handicapped single father overnight and had to navigate all of that with no vehicle. So we jumped in. I picked out the perfect vehicle for him to make sure it was an SUV, to make sure we handled his handicap needs, and also to be able to get his kids where they need to go. And so that's like number one story, that the first pillar of driving single parents was John Cano, who, and to this day, he still drives that car almost 7 years later. He's just such an incredible individual, always giving back and so kind and just wonderful. So the second story I would love to share is this past July. So back in 2020, during COVID, we gave away a vehicle to a woman by the name of Latika. And Latika was a single mom. She was struggling. She was trying to get through school. She was doing all these things, but she didn't have a car. So it was really making it challenging for her, with ride shares and Uber Lyft, trying to pay to get to where she needs to go. Well, we gave her the vehicle. She ended up graduating with her degree. She ends up getting married. She ends up getting herself to such a much more successful place in life that last July, she called me, she said, "Cindy, this vehicle, I don't need it anymore. I bought myself a new one. I want to donate it back to driving single parents." So she did. So she actually gifted that very same vehicle back to driving single parents to bless another single parent family. And so Kashmir received the vehicle. And now Kashmir's going through school. She's becoming a dentist. And she also has a child who's beautiful, wonderful. And so it's just that those moments like that where I'm watching, I actually usually give the keys to the car to the recipient. But this time I said, "No, Latika, I want Eva to do it." So she actually got to gift those keys to that car to the next single parent. And we've seen that single parent flourish. That's what it's all about. The ripple effect of kindness. That's right there. That tells me I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing.
I love that. I really love too that you're doing this pay it forward, having that pay it forward moment with Latika and now Kashmir being blessed with a vehicle to help now her move on and make her dreams come true. And I think this is a really great way also to teach our children about kindness and why we do it, why you do what you do, but also too is teaching young people like, it doesn't have to always be about what you get. It's how you give. You get so much more back and how you feel and just that gratitude moment. Like it can last a lifetime because you can look back. Like Latika's going to look back and say, I was blessed by driving single parents. I had a vehicle. It helped serve me for the amount of time I needed. Now I was able to repay that back to someone else that could now benefit from this vehicle that I received. And it's just doing that, like, just like you were saying, blessing people, like going through life and doing that, I think is such a beautiful thing that you're doing. So thank you so much for doing that, because I think it's incredible. I really do. Yeah, I love it. So I want to now talk about your other things that you've got going on. So you have a book, you have a TV show, you've got a podcast. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so first and foremost, my favorite thing is Little Give. Obviously, driving single parents is my favorite thing. So sorry about that. But Little Give is really part of my heart. And I have a fear of public speaking. And I know it sounds silly for a TV show host to have a fear, but I do. And I have really made this mission of mine to get over it. Like, okay, just do it afraid. Like it or not, this is you. Like, you can do it afraid. So when I was first presented the idea of doing the TV show, I said no, absolutely not. I could never. I have a fear of public speaking. Are you crazy? But then the seed was planted. Like, but what would you do if you were going to be a TV show host? And then I was like, if I could do things like showcase and highlight ordinary people doing extraordinary things to help others, that would be worth it. That would be worth the sacrifice of being on camera. That would be worth the sacrifice of public speaking. So that's how the idea kind of came to be of Little Give, because I was thinking through, hey, when I started my nonprofit, and even to this day, people often approach me and say, "Cindy, how did you do that? How did you do that? Like, what is it about you Like, it's not nothing about me that's special. I'm an ordinary person. And I literally just made a decision because I found a way that could be a solution for someone else. So I really came up with the idea of Little Give, and that's our focus is highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things to help others, and really just wanting to show people that all the people you see on TV, all the people you see on social media, all the beautiful pictures, the cover of magazines, none of those people are perfect. None of them. We're all just ordinary people, and each and every one of us have it inside of us to make a difference. And you get to choose. So that's how Little Give came to be.
I love that. Now, tell us about the podcast, 'cause I know you have a book by the same name.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually wrote a book with my two older daughters. Well, this is my third book, but this particular book was written with me and my older daughters, Caitlin and Kimberly, and it's called Is Manifesting Bullshit? And that book is so fun because me and my daughters, that was our first question when we first heard about manifesting. And then when I started applying it slowly but surely, they kind of, first they thought I was crazy. And then they kind of came into understanding that manifesting is not bullshit. And so we wrote this book together and it was super fun, mommy daughter collaboration. And so people would ask me all the time, like, well, is it? Is it? And I would jokingly say, well, you have to read the book to find out. But then I started thinking, hey, you know what would be so fun? What if I did a podcast where I can interview people from around the world and get their opinions, whether they're for or against, it doesn't matter to me, because I feel like the most perspectives that we can get, the more we can grow into who we're going to be tomorrow. So I founded this podcast, Is Manifesting Bullshit, and it's been so fun. I've met some incredible people.
I think that's incredible, especially because you first started with your two daughters, and being able to do something with your children is also something that you can look back on and say, hey, look at we created together. And I think that's beautiful because family is important. I know not everyone gets along with their family, but if they can find ways to get along with their family, however that looks, if it's in a moment, like you were saying, you've written a book. If it's finding a way to just to bring each other together, because again, you're going to go through life and you want to be able to look back. At least for me, my whole goal at the end of my lifetime is to be able to look back and say, oh, I'm so excited about the things that I did, the milestones that I achieved, the things that I created, the friendships that I cultivated, all of those things. And I can look back and not have any regret that I didn't go out and live my life. I didn't just sit back and grumble because it didn't turn out the way I wanted. I just actually I jumped in and did things that were scary, like you were saying, getting on camera and public speaking. That was your way of just saying, you know what? I want to leave a lasting legacy. This is what I'm going to do. So I love that. How do you practice self-care and find that work, like that balance or that harmony, especially being an entrepreneur? You have all your hats in so many different areas, and also being a mom.
So I actually have this thing where I always love to say that I run my calendar. My calendar does not run me. And that's so important to me because I think that scheduling and time blocking are so, so important. Obviously, with multiple things, we also own our own law practice. We have so many things going on all the time. I just really make sure that I'm blocking off time to say, okay, so for this 1 hour on Tuesdays, I work on driving single parents. Okay, for this 1 hour on Wednesdays, I work with Little Give or, whatever. I make sure that I block time off to do that. And that's the only thing I do for that hour. And I found that instead of kind of spinning around and trying to figure out what it is I need to be doing, I block it this way. And then I only do that for that period of time. And then that's it. I'm done. And then I have to wait till the next time I have it scheduled. By doing that, it really hyper focuses me to make sure that I am getting everything done as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. So that's kind of my answer to your question.
Yeah, no, but I love that because a lot of people think, well, why is she talking about time management? But for me, I feel like time management, when you manage your time effectively or efficiently, if you will, it is an act of self-care because you are making sure that you're not overwhelming your calendar. You're putting things on your calendar in designated time slots that align with how you're able to show up on each of those days, wherever that time is blocked in. And I think
Yeah.
that is so important. A lot of people don't realize that, one of the things that often I hear is, I have to do all of these things. I have to put in and put in the hard work and work these long hours. And then once I make it, or once I reach that goal, or I'm making this much money, then I'll have all the freedom, the time and freedom in the world to do the things, spending with my family. But they don't realize that time management actually is what's going to give you that time freedom.
Oh,
It's on your
yeah.
calendar, right? You have that clarity. You know what you're putting on your calendar. You're not overwhelming yourself, and you're making sure that it aligns with your purpose, like what you're doing with your life. You're going to have more freedom because you are going to be very strategic. And I think that's where, again, that disconnect is like, oh, when I have the money, I'll have the time freedom. But it's not really that. It's when you manage your time well, you're going to have the time freedom. The money's just that extra bonus, because then you're using your time making the money, but you've used it in a way that's efficient. So I love
Absolutely.
that you said that.
I 100% agree with you. And let me just tell you, people look at my bio and they go, oh my goodness, she probably has no time for anything. So untrue. So my daughter she competes in national cheer. So she has cheer 3 times a week. Those are my date nights with my husband. Our son actually does karate. So those are times we have blocked off. Our daughter actually plays in a band at the School of Rock. And so I block those times off. I'm always at their concerts. I'm always at the coffee and things with parents at the schools. And I'm always there for my kids. And I'm always there with my husband, trying to make sure I'm maintaining all of it at one time. But if I did not have the power in my calendar, there's literally no way I could do it all. But like you said, it's very important to use that as self-care. And the self-care, to add on to that part, is that I love spending time with my family. That's like my number one thing. Like, I want to go feed my bees. I want to hang out. I want to watch TV with the kids. I want to play with them. I want to do those things. So I just set my calendar in a way that I get all of the things I need to get done, but I also calendar in my life enjoyment. So important to me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So, what advice would you give to single parents who feel overwhelmed, or that they feel like the odds are stacked against them to keep pushing forward? And how can they rewrite their success stories?
I always love to tell single parents and anybody who I speak with is you start writing. Writing is so pivotal. It's what changed my trajectory in my life. So I would say the number one thing would be write for 3 minutes in the morning minimum about anything. It doesn't have to be anything about purpose. It could be about what your grocery list is. It doesn't matter. Just get in the habit of writing 3 minutes in the morning and then 3 minutes at bedtime. Slowly but surely, this will progress into you starting to write down about your hopes, your dreams, getting it out. Because sometimes we don't even know what we want. I went through that where I didn't even know what I wanted. So I would say, if you start writing and you can figure out, kind of hone in on what you want, doing it at bedtime can really help, because while you're sleeping, your brain is, like kind of bored. So your brain has time to really process the things that you're trying to accomplish. So I would say writing 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes at night, that would be my offer.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Cindy. It has been such a joy speaking with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your inspirational story and the amazing work you're doing through driving single parents. I loved hearing how you're empowering single moms and dads by giving them the gift of reliable transportation, which is so important, especially if you have a family and you're trying to make sure that make life as easy as possible for all. The impact that you're making goes so far beyond cars. You are helping people and showing up by helping them transform their own lives and to write their own success stories. And I know our listeners are going to walk away feeling motivated by your mission. I'll make sure to include all of your contact info in the show notes for anyone who wants to get involved. Again, your heart for giving back is so needed in the world today. And I am deeply grateful that you came on and spent some time with me today. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. I hope Cindy's message stirred your spirit to support single parents in your own communities. Just one act of kindness can change a life. Wishing you all an extraordinary week ahead. And until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Geraldine Glass, a leader in the field of music as medicine, and I'm excited to share with you my newest release of healing sound, Pentatonic Visions, with Chris Scholler and Electricast Records. Immerse yourself in ethereal realms where the harmonies of nature, tribal rhythms, and soundscapes blend with the crystal singing bowls. It's out now, streaming on all platforms.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast. Electricast.